Greetings all. Well, I had at least one viewer becoming concerned that I wasn't going to talk about gardens anymore. Because I've just been kind of rambling on, talking story about whatever's going on, plus gardens. There've been gardens in there. But, you know, the whole garden thing, it's imagination, creativity, and I got to come up with an idea, and I don't always have an idea. But I can usually talk about something. So that's what I've been doing. Because if I don't talk here, everybody's going to wander away and go, oh, he's dead. He's not there anymore. So we got to keep it going. Anyway, I decided I'll go back to specifically gardening this morning. And the precise topic is weeds. I know, weeds are the bane of the gardener. Well, people who live here on the Big Island, on the east side where there's lots of rain, and if you happen to have soil, oh, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, weeds in a jungle rainforest, trust me, you guys in New Jersey, you ain't ever seen anything like this stuff. So, the weeds can overcome you, overwhelm you, and destroy your efforts, or they can actually tell you something and they can become useful. Yeah, weeds are not altogether bad. Weeds indicate needs. It's a perfect equal sign. Weeds needs. Weeds needs. Good example. You got a front lawn, and it hasn't been maintained well. You haven't done any aeration. Maybe you've been using some harsh fertilizers and things on it. And it seems to have popped up full of dandelions. You have dandelions all over. Well, dandelions have a taproot. And they can pierce through a compacted soil, reach down deep, and pull up scarce nutrients that have been washed downward, bring them back to the top, and redeposit them again. Plus, when they die, that root creates a vent full of compost in the soil that allows for drainage and aeration. And so the dandelion is actually there trying to help you guys fix a problem in your lawn. Yeah, it's telling you have a need. You have a compacted lawn and it's probably low in nutrients. When the soil isn't particularly compacted and there's not many dandelions out there, but yet your lawn seems to be filled with clover, especially the Dutch white type, that low creeping white clover. Well, it's telling you something. Grass needs nitrogen. You haven't fed your lawn for a long, long time, and so it begins to thin. And as it thins, then, if you're lucky, clover gets going in it. Well, clover is a nitrogen fixer, and it puts stuff back into the soil for you. And so it's trying to help you with the horticultural problem, actually. The problem with having clover in the lawn is that if you like walking around barefoot, bees love the stuff too. Good luck. Pretty easy to step on a honeybee when you got a lawn full of clover. So, in general, no matter what kind of weeds you have out there, they're usually telling you something, and they're actually there in nature as a remediation. Gracie came by to photobomb as usual. I can't come out here and do any work without her showing up. She's watching over the pasture over there to see if there's anything good to eat, maybe something moving. Anyway, so I was going to turn the camera out this way. Looking right down here, what you guys see is a lot of different kinds of grasses and sedges. Well, this is actually a damaged environment. At one point, this used to be a rainforest. Okay, well, it's not a rainforest. They cut all the trees down. There was coffee planted in the area. Then there was sugar planted in the area. There's been all kinds of things happen. But this particular parcel has been pretty much run to cows. They cut all the trees down and they ran cows in it. And so when you have a successful cow pasture and the cows keep munching away, eventually what you end up with is mostly grasses. And so this is mostly grasses and grass-like plants like sedge. Now, we're right back to, these are here for a reason. Yeah, the soil that we're on is volcanic ash. It's approximately 16 feet deep or so, huge blanket of the stuff deposited thousands of years ago off of Mauna Kea. The stuff is really soft. and it washes away so easily. I learned my lesson the first year we were living here. You don't till this stuff. If I go out here and I take a tiller to this and whip it up like whipping cream, and we get one of them good rainfalls, whoosh, it's right down the mountain. Thousands of pounds of it will just flush away. It's so soft. Rocking my feet here right now, I can rock my feet up to 4 to 6 inches inside this soil. It's that soft. So the grasses are here for a good reason. There's two basic kinds of root structures in these grasses. There's the ones that bind the surface, and then the ones that bind deeper. The Wainaku over here has stolons that run much deeper in the soil. They're kind of hard to get out too. That's a real bugger. But anyway, that will hold deeply in the soil. On the surface, we have a series of other grasses, and particularly some that run nicely over the top. So the sedges make a very, very, very fine, tight mass of roots right on the surface of the soil. We use them here in my garden because, like I said, I cannot till. And so I kill all plants in situ, in spot. Anything that happened to be there, pasture grass, weeds from the garden, crop stubble, doesn't matter. I kill it in spot. Generally, we use either a propane weed flamer or road tar flamer. That works very well. I also use a woven industrial weed block. You just cover the stuff and let things die underneath. But we leave all the stubble. We leave all the roots. Everything is left to hold the earth. So you see over here on the far end over there that there's sweet potato. Yeah, it's a blanket, and there's weed block underneath it. It's holding soil. Right here in the foreground, I just got done planting corn. But you see all this green stuff coming up between the corn? It's the seeds from perennial peanut. The perennial peanut does make a seed. There goes the cat bomber. And after I remove everything from the top, I did that area again with a weed flamer, propane flamer. When I removed everything from the top and then planted the corn, poof, seeds from the perennial peanut popped up, came up all over in between. Now, perennial peanut has become an intentional weed in this area. I have planted it. It's a nitrogen fixer, and so it's very valuable here because we're always short of nitrogen. It also is a running crop that will mesh the soil, so it has stems that tie everything together so it doesn't wash away. I introduced this plant here as a weed, basically. Nature decided I had a good pick, I guess, because it's staying. Starting to rain out here, so I'm going to have to pack this up. Sorry, guys. We won't be able to stand around the garden long. One good look at how the onions and leeks are going. Over here is a sweet look at how the cabbages are doing. Here's broccoli that was planted 2 weeks ago. Isn't that a beauty? And roughly a week back over there, we got beans and romaine lettuce. Before I run for cover, I want to talk about one more little weed over here. It's a form of wild ageratum. This plant is very abundant here. Anybody who lives around Puna, you know this weed. It stinks. It has a very strong oil. Now, I'm not allergic to plant oils. Okay, I can even roll in poison ivy. It doesn't matter to me. So I don't get a reaction to this. But other people who are more sensitive, I know several, that when they handle this weed, they get a rash. The oil is irritating. And the weed is abundant as all get out. I mean, look at this over here. That's pretty much all one weed, and there's 2 or 3 weeds in there, but there's a whole lot of this one. There we go. Yeah, I'm back in from the garden. The rain has started in earnest out there, and well, last time I flooded out this camera, it cost me a lot of money to have it repaired, so yeah, I'm going to keep it dry. I even got water on the lens. Hey there. And the little photo bomber is here. She followed me in, right? Here, Gracie. Kitty, come here. You want to dry off? Huh? You want to dry off, huh? Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, that's good, huh? You like being dry. Here's a Puna cat. Been wet all its life. She moved in with Bill and Ellen, and Bill makes sure that Gracie is dry every time she gets soaked in the rain. She loves it. At first, she hated it. She said, "Oh my God, what are you doing to me?" Yeah, I'm a Puna cat. I stay wet. But then she caught on. Oh, once she caught on getting dried off, she'd come to me begging to say, "Bill, dry me off. Bill, dry me off." There you see, this is my photobombing kitty. I can't do anything around here without the cat showing up. So here she is, okay? For those of you who wanted to see the cat, cat fans, just listen to the tinkling bells down here someplace, right by my feet. Anyhow, so back to weeds. So I was showing you the argyranthemum, see, and my opinion of it is that the oil, positively proven, rather strong. Some people have allergic reactions to it. Well, I know when I first got gardening over here, I had really never come from anywhere where we had severe nematode problems. Nematodes exist almost anywhere, but they were never really a big issue in the Midwest. The Bay Area, the soils were too cool for them. They have them in California, but more in the interior, hotter, drier, sandier soils. Anyhow, so I never really had to deal with them much. I got going over here, and well, I met the nematodes right off. And so I've been doing a whole lot of different things to have to deal with them. But I think probably one of the most effective ones, honestly, is allowing organic matter to die on the soil in place. It creates undesirable gases and things that, in fungi, I don't know, everything, about what the actual process is. But, well, for instance, it's well documented, and I believe there's even stuff here at the University of Hawaii about using mustard. Yeah, mustard greens as a repellent for nematode. They plant a cover crop of mustard. I used Pacific Gold. It was Pacific Gold. I got it from Johnny Selected Seeds. This planted the whole patch with just ounces and ounces of mustard seed, and plants were like this close together. And then when the mustard got up real nice and was just beginning to start to push a few blooms, I went through and I mowed it. And mowing the mustard killed it. It didn't come back from that. But you leave the mowings, the leavings, right in place to ferment on top of the soil. And the chemicals that are released when that happens literally drive out or kill nematode that are in the soil. Rye does the same thing. If cereal rye, winter rye we call it. It doesn't work well here. It's tropical. But if you're, zone 6 and north, in the mainland, for instance, rye is an excellent choice because you can grow it out of season. It will grow across the winter. That's why they call it winter rye, even under the snow. Zone 3, northern Wisconsin, I used to plant it in October. It was still there in spring. Mixed it with hairy vetch. Well, when the rye is killed, it releases a chemical into the soil that is a natural nematicide, And so here we're in that's where planting weeds, my perennials peanut was a planted weed. Well, the argyratum there, it was not a planned weed. It is just abundant as all get out. It seeds like shotguns. And so it's all over the place. Like I said, most of us know it. I flame it down when it's young. I will cut it down. Weed whackers, whatever, mowers and whatever. I'll cut it in place. I also cover it with the woven industrial weed block we use around here. And so I get a whole patch of that stuff like underneath my corn. I'll cut all the corn stalks, throw them all down on top of the ground, and then cover the whole works with a piece of weed block. I'll wait a couple of months, go back over there, and it's completely clean underneath. Now, it leaves all the roots in place. This is important because it maintains the structure and binding my soil. But as the argyratum it decomposes, I believe the same chemical that's in it that will give people rashes, I think it messes with nematodes. That's what I think. And so if I'm correct, it's only a guess, but if I'm correct, that weed is here opportunistically actually addressing a problem that I have. And so weeds are showing needs. It's a helper in my garden. I used to hate it because it was everywhere. But as I grew to think that it was possibly addressing nematodes, I've gotten to like it. The whole point with weeds is don't let them seed. That's the whole point. Weeds are good. I mean, they're organic matter. That's compost. They'll fix nutrients for you. Weeds will do all kinds of great things. You know, the original fallowing of soil with cover crops, you know, when that started, they didn't plant winter rye. Trust me, they ate the rye. They let the weeds come up. Most times when you got weeds, they're not only telling you something about your condition, but they may very well be there to address your condition. As long as they don't start seeding, so they begin to spread endlessly everywhere, then they're not a problem. They're really not. Some of the perennial weeds that may be pre-existing in your ground, you know, the Midwest we had quack grass. The equivalent in California was Bermuda grass. We have that here too, but then we have a few others that are like Bermuda grass on steroids. Wainaku is nuts. Oh my goodness. Stolons are huge, and they just tunnel through the soil. They go right through a sweet potato. Well, Bermuda goes right through stuff too. I've seen any of those three grasses, quack, Bermuda, or Wainaku, just go right through a piece of produce. They don't care. But again, usually their purpose is binding. That's what they do really well. This past year, when we first purchased it, and I came out here with a shovel to try to dig some holes into the pasture as it was. I actually ruptured blood vessels in my ankle by having to pound on that shovel so hard by jumping against it that I broke some veins. The mat that these grasses create in this very soft earth is almost impervious. It's actually how I got started with using things like weed block, with using things like flamers, literally by having to remove what was binding the top of the earth before I could do practically anything else with it here. The weeds that came in on top of the pasture were exactly what this soil needed to keep it from going down the mountain. Nature provides, and it seems to be smarter than most of us when it provides what nature needs. It's really true. So I'm encouraging people not necessarily to look at their weeds with hatred and anger. It's a matter of, weeds are like brambleberries. Brambleberries are wonderful. I eat raspberries now every morning. I love brambleberries. They're one of my favorites. And but on the other hand, in the hands of people who don't maintain them properly, they're an absolute nightmare. Well, weeds are pretty much the same thing. Whip them into shape, make them do what you want it to do. And don't let them get out of control and tell you what you're doing, you know. It's being on top of the situation. That's where it's at. There are probably a whole number of reasons why the crops in my vegetable ground seem to be growing better year after year after year. I started growing vegetables here year-round in 2016. And so we got 6 years of working with ground over here. I have moved the garden completely. It was out front. It's no longer over there. It's over here next to the house now. And there's probably about 4 years worth of work on this patch that's over here. Yes. Soils in cooler, drier climates actually sequester and accumulate abundance of net carbon. They have carbon deposits. Carbon is what makes soils black. Carbon is created by dead plant materials mostly, sometimes dead animal materials too, but dead organic matter is where the carbon comes from. And so if it doesn't rain too much, if the climate is fairly cool, so you don't have a lot of oxidation. Low precipitation means lack of leaching. Then, as plants die on the earth, they actually build up materials every year. Now, you get into climates where it's much hotter, and also where it's a lot wetter, and you don't find the carbon accumulating. The carbon is constantly being destroyed. So Hawaii is one of those places. California was kind of interesting because in the Bay Area, I had relatively fertile soil. We did fine with it. It was okay, but it did not accumulate carbon at the same rate that soil did in Wisconsin. That was mostly because in Wisconsin, more than half the year, the soil was frozen solid. Nothing was going on, hardly. So it was protected by a layer of snow. California, things go on year-round, and basically the summer heat and the sun sears things and burns things into mineral ash, and then the winter rains take the ash and wash it away. So there's this oxidizing, burning, leaching process going on with organic matter and carbon there. But as I would travel out towards the very edge of the coast on Highway 1, right along the Pacific Ocean, out there they had farm fields that were black. They had accumulated net carbon. I mean, they're only, 30 miles from my house, probably, but soil was a completely different situation because the strand along the Pacific Ocean was much, much cooler. And because it was so much cooler, the carbon didn't burn away in the summertime. It accumulated. Here, real rainy, fairly warm. It rain's almost like acid when it comes to washing things away. It just burns it up and flushes it out. And so we don't accumulate carbon here at all. It's keeping any carbon around is a constant toss it on. That's what we talk about stick mulching here. That we do that. We do chop and drop because if you don't constantly hurl something against the soil, the carbon becomes deficit and then problems arise. When it comes to the nematodes, the higher the amount of organic matter on the soil decomposing, the less nematodes because the compost cycle is hostile towards them. Well, folks, for those of you who thought I stopped doing gardening videos, no, they're still ongoing. I just didn't have any thoughts. It takes some creative juices, and I didn't really come up with anything. I just kind of hit me about the weeds the other day. I've been developing this idea that particular weed actually might be causing me some good reactions in my soil. Because after a few years of working over here, the crops continuously are growing better and better. And now, maybe I've sweetened the pH a little bit by throwing lime around. That probably helps, and that holds up for a while. It maybe release some of the phosphorus that gets locked up. I throw a lot of chicken manure around out there and quite a bit of my kitchen trash. And so that's all nutrients, and that's got to help too. But, when I go out and I start pulling up crops and looking underneath, I'm always looking to see what is the amount of nematode damage on these crops. And you can really see it on things like peppers and tomatoes, for instance, or cucumbers. Oh, they nail them, boy. They love that stuff. They don't like the ruts on cabbages or broccoli or onions. That's one reason I grow so many of them. Anyway, I find that some of the nematode susceptible crops over time are beginning to grow better and better around here. And so the conclusion I can draw without having a real scientific analysis is that I get less nematodes than I used to. And so, some of the practices I'm using are obviously driving them out of the area. It's not a weed, but another one, speaking on nematodes, that I advocate, that's the use of Stroporia rugosa annulata, the wine cap mushroom. The wine cap mushroom eats nematodes. How much better does it get? Now, you'll need a few inches of wood chips to use this. Put down inch of chipped wood, fresh, clean, over your garden. Spread the spawn from the wine cap then put another inch of chips over the top. You can plant your pepper plants, your tomato plants, your melons, or whatever you want to right through those wood chips, provided you have enough nutrient in the soil underneath. You need fertilizer to do this. But as long as you don't stir the wood chips in, just lay them on the top. And eventually what you'll end up with is both your crops and wine cap mushrooms popping up all over that will eat your nematodes. Not exactly weeds, and a little off the subject, but I'm growing a batch of spawn right now for wine caps. My old caps kind of burned out. That's a temperate mushroom from Europe, and they don't persist too many years in tropical climates like Hawaii, but they do grow real good here as long as I refresh them now and then. And I got some fresh wood chips out back just waiting, and some jars of spawn going over here in the closet. So we're gonna start that project up again too. All righty, well, there's garden talk. All right, it was only a little talk about the cat. Aloha, hang loose, you guys. Have a good one.